Hello and welcome to Inside Edition, where we discuss national, regional and international issues in depth. Vocational training plays a vital role in bridging the gap between the classroom and the workplace. As a result, the government of Bahrain has created pathways that allow students to focus on technical and professional skills during their education. In fact, the Ministry of Education has keen interest to empower all students through transformative and advanced education that equips them with all required skills and broadens their views regarding entrepreneurship and innovation. For more about the Ministry's role and initiatives in this regard, we are pleased to be joined here in the studio by the Educational Specialist at Apprenticeship of Training and Career Guidance Department at the Ministry of Education's Technical and Vocational Education Directorate, Sheikha Dhari, right after this. Welcome. Joining me in the studio is Educational Specialist at Apprenticeship of Training and Career Guidance Department at the Ministry of Education's Technical and Vocational Education Directorate, Sheikha Dhari. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Sarah. It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Ms. Sheikha, first off, the Ministry of Education has provided a lot of special care for students who are more interested in practical skills than they are in academic studying by giving them the opportunity to develop their capabilities and talents. What can you tell us about the Ministry's efforts in this regard specifically?
The Ministry of Education has always strived to meet the needs of different segments of students, whether those who like to enter the job market directly or those who wish to be part of the higher education institutions. Right. Now we try to meet the needs of different segments of the students based on their needs, based on their capabilities, competencies, and most importantly their interest and potential. And therefore you can notice the amount of effort that is directed toward the TVE in Bahrain, right, and the advancement that we witness in our schools with regard to the different technical infrastructure provided in terms of labs. We also have the latest and up-to-date equipments as well as the necessary tools only to provide the flexible and the ideal platform and environment for our students to acquire such skills.
When it comes to vocational training, the fields of vocational training are many. How are the ones chosen in Bahrain? Is it because of something specifically needed on the island or fields needed by in Bahrain, or is it an international kind of standard?
Actually, Sarah, it's a combination of both. We try, the first thing we do is to engage different members from the labor market in order to review our occupational standards and the curriculum plans. And based on that, we come up with internationally recognized occupational standard that will meet their needs and will enable our students to be equipped with the needed skills in order to join the labor market. So our partnership with the labor market, it is very important, and we always look for their input.
Amazing. Well, following the directives of the Technical and Vocational Education's Development Committee, a very special event has started yesterday with ambitious goals and activities. What can you tell us and our viewers about that?
Yes, Antalaka was launched yesterday, and Antalaka is one of the many activities and programs that we provide for our students. It's going to be a 3-day activity that will be specifically directed for a specific segment of the students, those who are about to graduate. Now, Antalaka focuses on a number of skills. The first is to enable our students to market themselves in the labor market, or even when they want to join the higher education institutions, through skills that has to do with building their CV, acknowledging the right behavior during the interview, and even after being part of an interview. That's why we have made the last day only for the students who wish to take part of a mock or simulated interview with real representatives from HR departments within a number of organizations in Bahrain.
Yeah, basically taking away that fear factor that some of them might have.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Well, what are the expected outcomes that you see forth in?
There will be many benefits that will yield out of Antalaka. The first thing is that the students will get to be familiarized with the sectors available in the Bahraini job market, and we will raise their awareness with regard to the options that they can consider after graduation, and hence they will be able to make a better career decisions with this regard. We also strive to, as I mentioned earlier, to equip them with the necessary skills, the employability skills, as well as the 21st century skills, and again the skills needed to join the labor market with their preparation of CV or being able to conduct themselves within a job interview. Hence we focus on the job interview, Sarah, because it's a very important input not only to join the labor market, but you can see now that the majority of the higher education institutions require a job interview as a part of the enrollment requirements.
Right. When it comes to vocational training and the future perspectives of the students themselves, you've mentioned a couple of times whether they want to go to higher education or if they want to, what is the typical cascade of how students start off? They start vocational training, they start a job. If they want to go to higher education, what would their next step be?
Well, in the technical and vocational curriculums, we ensure that the students have both the academic skills and the practical skills. Hence, when they graduate, they will have both options. They can join directly the labor market, or they can continue with the higher educational institution based on their preferences. Yes. Because we strive to give them an equivalent amount of skills, academically and professionally and practically. Right. So it has to do a lot with the preferences of the students themselves and their personal interests.
But you provide the service to help them further that.
Exactly. We provide both the academic skills as well as the practical ones.
Perfect. Well, how does the Technical and Vocational Education Directorate contribute to achieving the National 2030 Sustainable Development Goals?
Of course, the Ministry of Education, and more specifically the Technical and Vocational Directorate, we always strive to place great importance to especially SDG 4 that has to do with education and providing high quality education services to our students. And this is demonstrated through the technical capabilities that we provide to our students and the learning environments that we offer them through our labs, through our workshops, equipment, up-to-date technologies, and nowadays the use of technical platforms to deliver the content through distance learning mechanisms. So it is actually the focus on SDG 4 along with SDG 5 that has to do with providing equal opportunities for both gender. We strive to attract girls toward more vocational specializations like medical equipment, for example, and this is part of our marketing campaign that we at the apprenticeship and guidance department we are working on delivering that to our students.
That's amazing. What can you tell us about the importance of cooperation? I mean, you sort of touched on it, but we want to know more information about how important is it, the relationship with the Ministry and Labour Market in terms of providing the required training for the students, in terms of knowing the job field or basically the career fields that they might go in. How important is that relationship?
The job market representatives as well as the higher education representatives, we consider them as our partners. We, as I mentioned earlier, we take their inputs to review our curriculums, in order to come up with more flexible curriculum plans that meet their needs and yet enable our students to be equipped with the skills that they need. We work together in order to enable our students to have a set of skills. We call them the employability skills, as well as I mentioned earlier, the 21st century skills that has to do with the self-management, with the linguistic mastery, having the decision-making capabilities along with the leadership, initiative, creativity, and of course being able to work within a team. And yet we need to focus also on enabling the students on using the technical platforms as I mentioned earlier. So all of these skills are actually important for our students, and we rely on our partners in the market in order to deliver them to our students.
Well, Mrs. Sheikh Avari, one of the questions that are on a lot of people's mind, the educational field always goes forward, especially with the age of technology nowadays. The pandemic, if it showed us anything, it is how fast things can change in certain situations. Is the vocational field the same? Does it change depending on the situations? Are other things needed? How do you adapt?
In light of the concentrated effort by the Ministry of Education members as well as the members within our directorate, we always look at the challenges, Sarah, as motivators and opportunities to develop and to provide the best services for our students. Now, if you can take the example of the pandemic and the COVID-19 crisis, it has influenced the educational system worldwide, not only in Bahrain. And hence, we were able to have an excellent crisis management techniques and the strategies that were employed effectively by using the distance learning techniques and the platforms, employing them. We had the challenge of making our students able to acquire the skills, especially purely technical skills that require them to be present in the labs or in the workshops, but we still managed to face that issue using the up-to-date techniques, the virtual classrooms. If you attend our virtual classroom, you'll notice the amount of technologies employed by the teachers who are specifically trained for that matter.
That's amazing. Well, what are the procedures taken by the ministry to basically overcome challenges or to help students overcome challenges when they're enrolled in technical and vocational education and training?
Again, Sarah, I'll give you the example of the current pandemic. We ensured that the first procedure was to ensure the safety of our students. That was the number one priority, following the precautionary procedures required in the labs and the social distancing requirements. Also, we utilized the technologies and the platforms that we have efficiently and effectively. We tried to supervise the entire learning process throughout the year by regularly visiting the virtual classroom and providing and receiving feedback to our teachers, to our students, and all stakeholders.
That's great. How do you value the international recognition of Bahrain's achievements, specifically in the technical and vocational education arena?
The Directorate of Technical and Vocational Education always worked with experts from on an international level. As a result, we were able to gain some of their expertise and knowledge. As a result, we were able to come up with our own curriculum plans independently. And we consider the curriculums that we built as a great contribution to the education in Bahrain. As an example, the UNESCO asked for our curriculums to be used in some of the foreign countries, like the foreign African countries. So we consider that as a privilege and something to be proud of.
Yes, as it should be. I mean, the thing that about vocational training in Bahrain specifically is that there's a very high standard that is being upheld, and this is where I want to ask you from what are the procedures taken by the ministry to ensure the quality of the technical and vocational education, as well as maintaining that success that it has reached?
First of all, we ensure the quality of the content that we deliver for the students. The curriculum, the subject has to be reviewed, has to be up to date, has to be meeting the stakeholders' requirements and the market entities. On the other hand, we also ensure that our graduates actually have the skills, and we always strive to bridge the gap between the market's needs and the skills that our students have. As I mentioned earlier, Sarah, we work along with different entities from the job market in order to ensure that, first of all, the quality of content that we deliver to our students in terms of the curriculums that we build, as well as the subjects that are directed to the students. We make sure that they are up to date and they meet the needs of the job labor market. On the other hand, we ensure that our students also develop the quality skills in in terms of employability or 21st century skills.
Right.
We also look for ways for bridging the gap between the market needs and the skills that our students should have once they are graduated. We also strive to utilize the virtual platforms available and the different technologies and techniques in order to deliver the best services for our students. The crisis management strategies that we have employed effectively in the recent pandemic are also one of the initiatives that we strive to focus on.
Right. When it comes to the students, I mean, you talk about your students, and a lot of people don't understand who is the typical student that is for the vocational kind of training. Just give us like a brief overview of who is the perfect student for a vocational training program.
Well, the students who want to be part of the vocational education should first of all have the interest in developing the kind of practical skills that we provide for them. Those skills ranging from being able to present, to speak, to lead, to communicate effectively, and to be part also from the training programs. We offer the students who are about to graduate a training opportunity. So if the students feel that they have the potential to be part of the labor market while they are still studying and to develop this sort of skills, they are the right choice to be part of the TVE schools.
That's amazing. From your point of view, how do you see the future of technical and vocational education training excellence here in the Kingdom?
The TVE has always contributed to the economic development and the economic reform of the country by responding to the needs of the, again, the job market representatives and trying to contribute through education to fill the bridge and to bridge the gap. I see the overall future from my personal view of TVE promising, as we are trying to attract more segments of students to join, as we introduced, hopefully, and we will introduce more up-to-date specializations, technically and vocationally, who will match the future job requirements and the future needs of the market.
We know that Bahrain has excelled in basically setting the field within the GCC area when it comes to that. What can you tell us about the available training programs in this field?
In the TVE, we offer a number of specializations for the students that they can engage in. For example, we have the fabrication and welding, we have the automotive specialization, the electrical specializations. We also offer them business studies and other specialization like multimedia. We offer mobile technology, computer technology, and many other specialization like medical equipment, which is also available for the girls.
Yes. When we were talking a little bit behind the scenes, you told me that that the perspective of them having higher education is high. Which one of these fields has a perspective of getting a higher education after the vocational training?
The majority of our fields enable the students to engage in higher institutions later on when they graduate based on their preferences. The majority of the fields that we offer at the TVE will enable the students to be part of the higher education institutions, and actually this is one of the questions that we get more regularly from parents all the time. So the students of TVE will always have the option of joining the labor market directly, as we mentioned, or being part of the higher education institution based on the specialization that they prefer.
Yeah, and this is actually where I want to go again into the field of the labor market. Bahrain is home to some of the biggest industrial companies such as Alba, such as Babco, and these are companies that are basically reliant on vocationally trained students or employees. What can you tell us about the cooperation between the TVE and such big companies such as Babco and Alba?
We consider such companies and many other as our partners. We cooperate with them all the time throughout our training programs, through our activities. You can take Antalaka as an example. We have people from the organization that you mentioned participating in different aspects of the program, whether it's discussing the seminars or also the one-to-one simulated interviews with the students. So yes, they are our partners, and we strive strive to work collaboratively together in order to conclude the needs that we need to tackle with regard to the students' skills.
Yes. When you talk about these needs, how are the programs or the vocational programs updated if something extra or a specific module is needed extra? How do you update these kind of programs?
As you mentioned, we work closely with the labor market entities, and we try to get their input. We try to get their perspective with regard to the needs of the students, and we always strive to look for their feedback, especially after the training programs.
Yeah.
We get the feedback with regard of the students' performance, how well they did during the training program. So using this sort of information, we review our occupational standards,
yes.
our curriculum plans, and we try to update them accordingly.
Yes. Well, finally, before we end today's show, from your point of view and from your position as a educational specialist at the Apprenticeship and Training Career Guidance Department of the Ministry of Education, a word from you to your present students, your past students, and hopefully the future students. What is the most important thing they should rely on?
I think the most important advice that I can say to our students is to focus on their passion and to look at their capabilities, their competencies, their personality aspect, and based on that, given that or putting that in mind, they can also look at the available opportunities in the market and combine both perspectives in order to make a wiser career decision with regard to the next move in their career. I also encourage them, our TVE students, to use the skills that they have acquired throughout the training programs, throughout the different projects that we put them part of. So using these skills and utilizing them throughout the higher education studies, or even if they want to join the labor market directly, will be the best way in order to further develop them.
Yes. And it's also a huge perspective for them in the future, whether they want to further their education or stay within the labor market and maybe just succeed within the labor market itself.
Yes, exactly, Sarah.
Thank you so much for being with us today and explaining all of this. I'm sure, if we have another episode, we can talk about other stuff because there's so much to go into vocational and technical training. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And we would also like to thank you for watching us and see you next week in another episode of Inside Edition.